So Court of Appeal heard us yesterday morning. They came back by the afternoon with the right decision, which is those provisions should not be in force until the appeal is heard. The appeal is going to be heard June 14th. So that sounds like a long ways off, but that's actually expedited. That's the soonest date a Court of Appeal could get us in. So that's the delays we're dealing with. And hopefully the appeal will continue to go well at this level of courts.
I was in a bank just a few days ago. A manager comes, keep fighting for us. Wherever I go right now, people recognize and they say, please, keep fighting. I have people from City Hall came to me and says, there's a lot of us there cheering you up. Keep fighting for our rights. So keep fighting. Do not lose hope. I'm telling you, we can turn this whole thing around. We have to be faithful, we have to be determined, and we have to be willing to pay the cost.
Warning, censorship.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News, and after nearly 2 years of ongoing and cycling lockdowns, vaccine passports, mask requirements, and perpetually moving goalposts, many of us are feeling deflated. It was time for some good news, and that news often doesn't come from the judiciary, from the legal system that has punished people who have resisted COVID restrictions. Well, this time we have a victory. The Alberta Court of Appeal has stayed the sanctions against Pastor Artur Pawlowski, which restricted his capacity to exercise his free speech and limited his travel. So he will have an opportunity to address those when his proper appeal term comes up in June. Until that time, he will not be subject to those violations of his rights. This is one of the first times that an appeal court has addressed a vaccine or COVID-related item, and it is wonderful to see that the judicial system is not entirely lost in this country and that some wins can still be had. This greatly inspires our initiatives through Fight Vaccine Passports, where we are hoping the judicial system will do the right thing, and when we take these people and these companies to court who have violated people's rights, they will see that the charter must be upheld and these freedoms must be upheld. I'm going to be joined in just a moment by Sarah Miller for some legal analysis on this matter. Sarah Miller of JSS Barristers is the brilliant lawyer who's been provided at no cost to Pastor Artur Pawlowski thanks to your generous support at saveartur.com. We're also going to speak to the man himself, Pastor Artur Pawlowski, for his personal account on this court victory. So, Pastor Artur Pawlowski, some good news in court. The troubling and undemocratic sanctions imposed by Justice Adam Germain, limiting your capacity to travel and limiting your free speech, have been stayed until a proper appeal process can take place. How does it feel to be able to express, not that you stopped anyways, but how does it feel that the government is not attempting to stifle your speech and that you're free to travel?
You know, you're right. I never stopped speaking the truth, preaching the truth. I mean, as a pastor, you know, if people like me, if the clergyman will stop preaching the truth, we're done for. We should change a profession. So as you know, the moment he pronounced this unconstitutional, illegal, wicked, evil judgment, I grabbed the mic and I said, no, how can I live in this country if I am subjected to this level of injustice, this level of tyranny? So I did preach the truth all those few weeks. However, in the back of the mind, you always have this, when you're being subjected to this kind of treatment, that what and when they're going to march through the doors, break the door, the Nazi style, the KGB, arrest me in the middle of my sleep. You know, you always have those thoughts. How far are they willing to go? And another thing is that I started to lose hope in the justice system. And I think that's the biggest part, that I looked at the judges, Adam Germain, the wannabe tyrant, political activist, or Rook, and then David Gates. And when you start to look at those types of individuals, you say, okay, we've lost justice. We've lost our courts. There is absolutely nothing we can do about it. So now this ruling that it got stayed, those horrific compelled speech from North Korea, from China, and me not being able to travel freely as a Canadian, my heart jumped. I mean, literally, I was driving with my brother David Pawlowski, that was arrested and subjected to the same tyranny with me, and we just like fist bump. It's like, wow, maybe there is hope in this country. Maybe we can turn this around with the judges. Maybe there are some judges in this country that still value freedom of speech, freedom of expression, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the Criminal Code of Canada. Maybe there are still some judges that look at this craziness and say, this is wrong. This is wrong. So I was so happy. I want to thank you and all of you. You've supported this fight. I mean, I have a big mouth. Everybody knows that. And I am willing to speak. I am willing to fight for you. I'm willing to speak for you. But without you, without your support, without you covering the story, I think they would finish me off very quickly. But because of you and because of you, the viewers, I can still fight for you. I can champion the free speech, the freedom of expression, freedom of religion in this country, just like John Diefenbaker did.
Well, that's wonderful to hear from Pastor Artur Pawlowski, and now we will go to Sarah Miller of JSS Barristers, who has been provided at no cost to Pastor Artur Pawlowski, thanks to your generous support at SaveArtur.com. So I am once again joined by Sarah Miller of JSS Barristers, a lawyer that has been provided to Pastor Artur Pawlowski as legal counsel at no cost to him, thanks to everyone's generous support at SaveArtur.com. It has been a tough year, particularly on many of these legal fronts. Lots of these legal battles are just starting, or we certainly don't have much resolution on them. But we did have a big win yesterday and some very good news. The extremely troubling Soviet-style speech mandate and travel ban that Justice Adam Germain imposed on Pastor Artur Pawlowski was stayed until the appeal process. So effectively, he won't be subject to those violations of his fundamental rights. Just let us know what happened in court and how this victory came about.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Adam, we filed an application to stay the sanction of Justice Germain. Two of those that we mainly raised concerns with is the unconstitutional compelled speech and the restriction on travel. There's really no reason, no interest for Alberta Health Services, the government generally, the court system, in representing and protecting the administration of justice to prohibit the Pawlowskis from leaving the province. It seemed very clear when you read Justice Germain's decision that he made that decision based on the fact that Artur went around to the US and did a little speaking tour this summer. That apparently didn't strike the right chord with Justice Germain, and it seems like that punishment was in respect to that, rather than what we're really talking about, which is May 8th church gathering in violation of the Rook Order. So Court of Appeal heard us yesterday morning. They came back by the afternoon with the right decision, which is those provisions should not be in force until the appeal is heard. The appeal is going to be heard June 14th. So that sounds like a long ways off, but that's actually expedited. That's the soonest date a Court of Appeal could get us in. So that's the delays we're dealing with. And hopefully the appeal will continue to go well at this level of court.
Well, we're so happy that we do have this win. As you know, we will be there by your side sharing your story. And when you face the appeal in June 2020, we're going to be there by your side as well. Just finally, moving forward, looking at the horizon, within court, the judge asked AHS about this compelled speech in the travel ban. They said that they never asked for that. That wasn't their volition, further highlighting just how radicalized this judge has become. What do you think that means with that being brought up in court, them raising how problematic these sanctions were? What do you think the prospect is moving forward? Are you optimistic for the first time in a long time?
Yes, I am. I think that now, since 2 years fighting this craziness, finally we have a judge that looks at this and says, well, this is un-Canadian, this is illegal, this is against the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and it's just simply wrong. We have to fix this. You see, I think we have lost accountability in a political arena. We've lost accountability with the mainstream propaganda machinery, and we've lost the accountability if it comes to the judicial system. So I think that those appeal. I know that's interesting that when we speak, we always have a helicopter. I mean, I don't know. After all, I am not a conspiracy theorist, as you know, because everything I have been saying, warning Canadians about it came to fruition, came to pass. We are witnessing all the conspiracy theories that that we have been warning people about are actually the truth. But every time we show up, they show up.
Without fail.
Like they're very faithful, you have to admit, those helicopters. That actually doesn't worry me. I mean, what a waste of resources. But this ruling yesterday, it gives me a hope, a light in the tunnel, that we have not lost our nation yet, that there are still good people everywhere. And I have people coming to me from the city hall to my house, telling me that there is lots of people that cheering me up. You know what happened in the court? I had to give $50,000 to the Nazi party, the AHS Nazi party of Alberta, $50,000 for me and for my brother David, money that was designated to feed the poor and save lives. Now I had to give that up to the corrupted organization in Alberta. But I was there making my arrangements, because if I would not pay, I would be arrested, and my brother David as well. And Madame Clerk looked at me and says, I recognize you, I know who you are. And she takes the mask off and she says, I hate this. We all hate this lie. And she says, there's many people that cheering for you. And she says, keep fighting for us. I was in a bank just a few days ago. A manager comes, keep fighting for us. Wherever I go right now, people recognize and they say, please, keep fighting. I have people from City Hall came to me and says, there's a lot of us there cheering you up. Keep fighting for our rights. So keep fighting. Do not lose hope. I'm telling you, we can turn this whole thing around. We have to be faithful, we have to be determined, and we have to be willing to pay the cost.
Thanks so much, Pastor Artur. Now, not that it can forecast entirely, but I think that the fact that the appeals court sort of approached Alberta Health Services, and Alberta Health Services said that they didn't, in fact, ask for this. And furthermore, I believe from the proceedings that it was mentioned that if this doesn't constitute a violation of his rights, what does? So it seemed very much as though this was a borderline condemnation of these specific sanctions, not the fines or not the community service, but these specific notes. Does this perhaps to some extent forecast what might happen in the appeals process?
I think it certainly at least shows us that the Court of Appeal is paying attention, that they're actually going to be looking at this seriously and looking at the facts seriously. I hope that continues throughout at the Court of Appeal level. We've been hitting some roadblocks at the Court of Queen's Bench. There wasn't always a feeling that we were being heard, or that there was being really good legal analysis that was occurring. It looks like Court of Appeal is kind of changing the tides on that. They're going to be looking at this for real good legal analysis and not on a do we generally agree with Artur Pawlowski.
And we're certainly hoping that the judiciary does, in fact, invoke and enact some justice. At least yesterday they did. Thank you so much for your exceptional work on this case. If it wasn't for your efforts and the generosity of our viewers, we certainly wouldn't have this win. So again, thank you so much for your hard work. Well, special thanks to Sarah Miller, who is always willing to come out and give us an update on legal proceedings. The legal details matter on these cases because they may set precedent for thousands of people across the country facing similar situations. I also want to thank Pastor Artur Pawlowski for his unique personal response to this court victory. As always, I want to thank you all for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos. Well, this is certainly a marked victory for Pastor Artur Pawlowski and freedom. You have to keep in mind that this sanction was only stayed for the time being. The real appeal and the real battle still lays ahead. If you want to help in those efforts, you can do so by chipping in at saveartur.com. You're also going to receive a tax receipt because any contributions made there go to the Democracy Fund, a registered charity, and they'll be used to help hire Pastor Artur a lawyer.